I have been searching.
Welcome to Following the Fire, a podcast for Christians who are rethinking their faith and need a safe place to doubt. As we wander through the spiritual wilderness, we want to find and follow God wherever the pillar of fire leads.
And just like God's people in the Bible, we get lost, we miss the point, and we don't have all the answers. But maybe that's okay. We're on this journey together. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Steve.
Even on my heart can't compare with what you're.
Hey, how you doing, Nathan?
Hey, I'm good. Had a bad hair day today. I need a haircut.
I feel that, you know.
Bad hair day. It's the wind, isn't it?
It's trash day, so I had to go outside, and it was bad news. I had some big presentations with, the big bosses in it, and I looked ridiculous.
It's their fault for caring.
People are used to it by now, so it's like they're like, it's just Nathan. He's gonna whatever.
Yeah, the guy with the hair and the beard.
Yeah.
See, it's like it's your thing.
It's my thing.
Everybody needs a thing.
Yeah, it's my way to be authentically myself.
There you go, buddy.
It's my
there you go, buddy.
Diversity and inclusion initiative is like, hey, even straight white guys don't have to fit the mold, you know?
Right. You wear your capris and your long hair.
I love capris so much. Yeah. When people at work found out that I wear capris, since then they have not let me hear the end of it, but they're the best kind of pant.
As you
It's
deserve.
good to know that you are
affectionately.
Yeah, you're confident in yourself. That's good.
Yeah. Yep. Either just delusional or confident, unaware.
Yep. Yeah, I follow this person on TikTok. I think their username is Chris Paul Rainbows, and it's a non-binary individual. And they have this pretty well-known. Well, I guess in certain circles, it's kind of a well-known. They do a drag queen story hour, and their alter ego is called Lady Girl Fancy Pants.
God bless.
and they were talking about it on a video. They're like, I think I'm done with Lady Girl Fancy Pants. I think she came along when I needed her because I felt vulnerable doing this stuff by myself. But now I think I am ready I want to show people. I want to keep doing the story hour, but I want to do it as Chris Paul Rainbows instead of the other one, because I want to show people how valuable it is to just be yourself and how wonderful it is to be yourself. That was a neat little message. Did you say stunning, Hannah?
Mm-hmm.
Stunning.
Does that mean the same thing to them as it does to us, Steve?
I think so.
Is it a good thing to be stunning?
I think it's pretty good.
Or is it like...
Yeah.
Stunning is good.
You all good to go, Noah?
Yes, I am good.
Do not smack in the mic.
I won't do that during the actual podcast.
Oh, this is the show.
Oh,
it all stays in the show. It all stays in the show. No.
This is live, isn't it?
It's in the show's in the show.
Yeah, it's live, Noah.
Actually, give me a second. I can make it live on YouTube if you want me to.
Here.
So I think we'll
need more,
guys. We're gonna start out by I'll probably do kind of an intro, and kind of define who Generation Z is for our UK customers.
Are there any UK customers of this podcast?
Give me a second. I hate it here.
Do they exist?
Joke. What?
They do.
British people?
We have people. Yeah, we have people listening from like 30 countries.
No, Dad. It's a meme that British people don't exist.
No.
Oh, is it?
That's actually not that bad of a meme. The real meme is that nobody lives in New Mexico.
Oh, that's the new one.
Yeah, that's been around for like a month or two.
No, sorry.
So does that mean it's almost run its course? Month or two?
This one's more stupid, which means it might stay for longer. So
yeah, honestly, if a meme is stupid, there are two ways it can go: die real quick, or go on for way longer than it needs to.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the point of the meme to get old people to explain why it's wrong, because that was my impulse.
No, it's
no,
not.
it's because we find it funny. I don't know. We find it hilarious.
I wanted to say like, well, actually.
The more
But
actually, there are people in New
no.
Mexico.
Yeah.
This is off to a great start. I can feel the God coursing through this podcast.
Right. So Hannah, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I've been I did some schoolwork. I placed in the next bracket in a Beat Saber tournament.
I'm still mad that you beat me.
I'm sorry. I
Why are you
apologize.
sorry?
Because
You keep apologizing for being better than me at a song in Beat Saber.
Yeah, you need to rub it in a little bit, Hannah.
Yeah, come on.
No, I refuse.
mean.
No.
See, this is the problem. You're so nice, and
Quit.
Noah's not.
I hate
So-
this game.
Is Beat Saber like Guitar Hero for Star Wars?
Sorry, no. It's like
Kinda.
Guitar Hero for VR, kind of.
It's a VR thing.
Yeah, it's basically
But it's
you
a
have
lightsaber, right?
you have
Yeah.
two
Yes.
lightsabers. One is one color, and the other is a different color, and it's important because there's two different colored blocks, and
The
they
blocks
rush
come at you and you swipe at them. You cut them in the direction that the arrow is pointing. So if the arrow is pointing this way, then you cut it like this. And
It's like
two
Dance Dance
songs.
Revolution. So it's
Yeah,
Dance Dance
Not really
Revolution,
VR.
but
but
you have to go like
violent.
this, and it looks
Well,
really
but with
cool.
your arms,
There are
yeah.
no people being harmed, only blocks.
Well, I mean, you could probably get a mod where it's just people instead of blocks.
I don't like that.
That sounds
But
That's
gory.
bad.
It's virtual reality.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be gore. You could just make it like chopping people in half, and it's just like sparks instead of blood.
I don't like that.
Yeah,
This isn't going in the podcast, right?
Bad.
it totally is.
I hate it here.
So, yeah. So Nathan and I are here with my children. Yay!
It's my first podcast.
Yeah. So, Hannah is my eldest and most geriatric daughter, and she's
Hello.
Tell us briefly about yourself, Hannah, and then we'll get to your little bro.
Please, geriatric. I'm gonna cry. Hello. My name is Hannah. I am 19. I was going to say thriving, but like it's a work in progress, you know? Uh, I am autistic. I have ADHD. I am a Christian who's deconstructing. How's that?
All right. Sure. Yeah. What do you like to do?
Oh, I like to play Minecraft and do like D&D type role-playing stuff. I read lots of manga and play games with my friends, video games.
Cool. And Noah, tell us about yourself.
My name is Noah, in fact.
Nice. I got it right.
I'm basically I'm probably neurotypical.
Probably. I'm gonna
Hopefully.
lose
The
it.
older you get, the less confident you'll be in that. That's what my experience has been.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah, Mom.
experience at the party at like the school dance at my school.
Yeah, no one at a school dance is anything typical. It's all
Like my reaction to it after a while did not give me confidence in my neurotypicalness. Anyways,
How old are you?
I am turning 15 soon, actually, like really soon.
Yes, you're still at the age where you're like, oh, I'm turning blank soon, instead of just
Mhm.
stating how
you're
old you are.
14 and 3/4 is what you're saying.
Well,
So
I'm
He goes,
you're
"Mhm."
14.
turning in 2 months, but it's also this,
I'm turning 20 sooner than you. You don't see me saying that.
I'm
Now.
It's a big
Children.
milestone because I get to get my driver's permit,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm not
a
really
big
going
deal.
to. I don't really trust myself.
Well, I don't trust you
My
either,
experience
but
in any kind of go-kart.
that's why you need a permit. So what do you like to do in your off time, Noah?
I do many things. Probably the most common one, the most one I do, is
Mostest.
video games for sure.
Okay.
I'm a gamer at heart. One might
My
say.
favorites?
I like myself a tad of Minecraft. Not as much. That's one of my least favorite games, but it's still really good in my opinion. I also play, Destiny, Apex, the shooty games that are
Nerd.
probably not follow the Bible's guidelines, I guess. God would be disappointed.
Yeah, there's
in
that whole
humanity.
section in the New Testament about like which video games you should play.
First person shooter games.
Yeah.
Paintball mode only. Do they have paintball mode still?
Minecraft does, but that's on a server, so
Don't worry about it.
pretty lame. Yeah, my favorite game is Terraria because
Okay.
Do you mind? Is that like Minecraft but in 1D or like 2D?
It's people say it is Minecraft in 2D, but it's
not.
kind of similar. It's Minecraft adjacent, I would say.
If you knew
Where-
everything about Minecraft and nothing about Terraria and tried to play Terraria, you
would not do
hopelessly
well.
lost.
You would be depressed.
I've played a lot of Terraria, but a long time ago I didn't know those. It's a great game.
It's
Yeah.
pretty good. I have close to 2,000 combined hours over all the different platforms.
Oh my word!
I have.
I need to cut you back on that a little bit. It sounds
God,
like.
no, please.
I mean, probably same on Massive.
It was
Massive
mostly during the quarantine. So
Yeah,
that quarantine
Mhm.
summer, I did nothing but like Terraria and Apex.
true. Yeah, I just realized actually all three of you, except everybody on this call except for me, is a saxophone player.
Nerd.
I just got a
Interesting.
tenor sax yesterday. A new
Yeah.
one, a brand shiny new one. No, he didn't.
What is it? A rental?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah.
Cool.
He's going to be in high school band next year, so
Okay.
getting all ready for that.
Also, I know it's surprising, but I do other things other than just video games, which is weird for a 14-year-old.
You develop video-
I do-
You code video games.
I code
Scratch.
on Scratch. It's not quite the same, but that's what I want to do for a job. I art sometimes. I do 3D art, and I write sometimes, occasionally.
Sunlight warms my face and the air fills my lungs. The summer sun brings growth and the winter cold gives rest. Crunchy leaves feel good beneath my feet, and I'm just not sure I have.
Yeah, so the reason we wanted to have you guys on the podcast is partly I guess I like you and enjoy talking to you. But you both are of the Generation Z, as they say, across the pond.
What did
or
you just call me?
Z.
What did you just call me? No.
And so I am technically barely in Generation X, which is the generation that everybody forgets about.
Didn't get a name.
It's just X.
Except for all the Gen Z kids with Generation X parents that are constantly talking about how they're forgotten.
Because you're like the nice ones. There's boomers who are like mean and crabby. There's millennials who are like loud. And then Gen Zs who are goblins.
Millennials are loud?
Loud and lifestyle-y.
Yeah, I saw this YouTuber who is a millennial, and he described millennials as almost all of them just borderline functioning alcoholics.
How do you take that personally, Nathan, since you are a millennial?
Yeah,
We outnumber you, old man.
I mean, you're in Colorado with a lot of.
I don't know if this is the Gen X experience, but I'm sure this is the Gen Z experience, which is that just whatever you are, if there's a name for it, just your whole life, you're like the problem. Like, because the next generation is always the one where it's getting worse. They believe in institutions less, or they're millennials.
Yeah.
We're not getting jobs, and we buy expensive avocado toast, and we can't afford houses.
Because you drink fancy coffee.
That's a really expensive avocado toast.
All millennials do is drink fancy coffee, eat avocado toast, and not pay for houses.
I had a coworker who was complaining, and he was complaining about this next generation, and I was like, yeah, they're the worst. And then I realized that he was talking about my generation. And I was like, oh.
Oh no!
That's
What,
funny.
Did you say anything?
So it's hard to, I think it's such a natural thing to just think like the new thing is not as good as my thing.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's interesting. So before we get too deep into it, here's something that's really fun for me and probably not for other people. But it's generations don't exist. There's no such thing as a generation.
Right.
But things form groups of people.
Yep.
Your environment forms a group of people. That's how we get generations that can have any kind of a characteristic to them that's distinct from another one. And so if we did X to millennial to Gen Z, things like, what do you remember about the Cold War? What was your first experience with the internet like?
Palm Pilot.
Where were you on September 11th?
In my mother's womb.
And what is the common like cultural phenomenon that your friends all experienced at the same time that was like the biggest thing in your generation? Things like that are so interesting to understand in different generations. So like so I got my first phone when I was 16.
Cell phone?
Right? First cell phone. It was the kind that's buttons and text only, right? No internet or battery lasted about 2 to 3 weeks.
Whoa, wait,
Dang.
You could hacky sack.
Oh, it was a Nokia. It was a Nokia.
Indestructible.
Wasn't it? They don't break. They are. You could, the one thing that could stop Thanos in Infinity War would be a Nokia.
Yeah, they're still going. Could play Snake on it. So I don't want to brag, but there were video games on my calculator and on my phone.
I actually jailbroke my calculator to get games on it.
There's my internet I got on CDs that said AOL on them that you would get at the mall for free.
Free hour. You got free hours.
And if
700
someone
free
was on the
hours.
You
phone,
ran the internet.
you could hear the internet.
Wait, you
through
ran
the
the
phone.
internet on a CD?
Well, it had the app that you installed on your computer, and
Yeah.
it also gave you a certain amount of
to
free
connect
hours.
to
Yeah.
You just
Internet,
slap in the
okay.
Internet Explorer CD into the.
No, this is pre-Internet
computer to
Explorer,
be
man.
able to-
Yep.
Oh.
No, and then I was, like, of course, like everyone, every human, I remember exactly where I was on September 11th. I was on my way to junior high school, and I was waiting for my friend, and like most people, I was watching the news just in case it was a snow day, I checked every morning the like local news on the television, and I watched a plane run into the tower.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen videos just on the internet of that, just recordings of people in the streets on that day, and that's just like one of the most horrifying things I could imagine.
The big thing I remember when
Ever.
I was a kid was the Challenger space shuttle exploding.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was in elementary and walking back from art class, and they mentioned something about it. I was like, what? Space shuttles can't explode?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
That's the most surprising thing I've
And
heard
I'm
all day.
guessing that for you guys, a lot of this will be around, a lot of your memories will be around COVID, because it's been pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Me out here about to say, oh, I just realized I think we're going to remember the insurrection on January 6th. And then I'm like, oh, COVID, yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first
Yeah,
insurrection. You'll remember, like, oh, do you remember the first little insurrection? Like, remember when it was like, the mini one on January 6th?
Fear.
So did you have to wait until you're 16 to get a cell phone?
I got a phone. It was like a flip phone in 4th grade after pleading with my parents for one. And then because my school at the time was really strict about phone usage at school, I could only check it when I was waiting to be picked up. And I didn't really do much with it. It was like straight up like it had like the 9 keys and you had to
totally
like press the
forgot about
numbers
that.
for the letters. You forgot
Was it
about
the
that,
flip
dang.
phone? Was
It
it
was
the
a
flip
flip
phone? Oh yeah, I think I remember that a little bit.
Yeah.
Was it kind of chunky? It was like weirdly
Yeah, that's right.
chunky.
And
for
I
a
think
flip
we
phone.
got you a iPhone, or a hand-me-down iPhone when you were 13. And then we had to take it back because you abused it. No shade. Just happens,
Thanks.
Teenagers are they're dumb kids.
You punched your iPhone a few too many times. We had to-
Yeah, that's what happened.
I haven't gotten a phone taken away for a long time.
Oh, we can change that. So
Why?
Generation X
So
is
anyway.
Generation X is people born from 65 to 80. Millennials is 81 to 96. Obviously, all a construct, like Nathan said. Z is 97 to 2012. And the one coming up next is Generation Alpha.
I was wondering if it was going to be a variant.
Alpha male.
They ran out of letters.
No.
It's like
Sigma male.
It's like the Dimitri Martin joke about how when they were naming vitamins, they're like A, B. Well, there's a lot of these. There's B1, B12, B6. No, they didn't have many more.
C, skip to K.
Yeah, so they start with
Is there
like the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, and they're like, oh, I guess the next one's Y, and the next one's Z. Oh shoot, I guess Alpha.
What's after that?
Let's switch to the Greek alphabet.
Greek alphabet
Yeah.
time.
Anyway, so we talk a lot about on this podcast about faith and beliefs and our perception and stuff. And we obviously we're talking about it from an X/millennial perspective for the most part, just because it's who we are. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to get some ask you guys some questions about faith and your faith journeys and what and as you're much more of an expert on your generation than I am. I mean, we joke a lot about, like, I think even in this podcast we've joked about how, like, a few episodes ago, joked about like your slang and how it changes all the time.
Yes.
and what things actually mean.
You pulled me into the office, into the office room, before, like, while you were editing that, was like, hey, Hannah, get a load of this.
Right. That's right.
And I was dying.
Yeah. But it turns out you guys do have more to provide the world than just goofy memes and
Gee, thanks.
and slang that nobody understands.
We're the ones who are gonna have to fix the world.
Exactly.
Wow, we have opinions and lives? That's surprising.
Yeah, well, yeah, you
No.
barely do, but you do.
Thanks.
So we wanted to ask you some questions, and we'll ask each one of you questions, and you can each answer the question, but we'll get to that in a second. I'll start off, and then I'll let Nathan ask questions. I just want to start like on a very high level. I'll start with you, Hannah. What is a difference that you see in how the older generations, like Nathan and I and above, how we approach religion and faith differently than Gen Zers?
Specifically in relation to Christianity or religion and faith as a whole?
Kind of as a whole. I mean, either way. Answer either way.
Mm-hmm. So as a whole, people are way more open about it. Like, I often now hear about witches, like pagan witches, and people who are Wiccan, and I think it's really neat that at least Gen Z sort of has a way more open-minded outlook on the world,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is easily translating over to views on religion for the most part.
Okay.
I still have arguments with the conservative kid in humanities class.
I really feel like I don't hang out with enough I haven't hung out with enough non-conservative kids for not long enough. Like, I'm a new school. I feel like there's enough that I'm starting to see that that people are different.
Yeah.
People are actually not terrible, because my old school was 100% made of just super conservative kids that were all fundamentalist Christian parents that are super either racist or homophobic or whatever, not accepting of just anything different because the Bible, I guess, or maybe it's just because they don't feel like it. It's not always just the Bible.
Yeah.
But
So in general, and I agree. It's what I see from as far as your generation goes. It's generally more open and accepting of. It's like default is open and accepting until other information comes along.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really nice at the new school with people not being.
Yeah, and as opposed to, I think my parents' age and up, especially, and some of my age as well. the default seems to be kind of like a defensive mode, sort of.
Is part of the openness also, like, there's one part of openness that is you accept things and you're fine with things, but another part is that you talk about those things that, like maybe we were taught formally that you don't talk about this kind of thing in polite society. You just keep those things to yourself. Is there also more openness, just willing to share beliefs with strangers or beliefs, in those kinds of situations? Or do you think that it's more just the acceptance part?
I feel like there's definitely a more open nature about like everything as a whole, including stuff like social taboos, I suppose. Less so than perhaps one would expect, but like still, like about like mental health as an example. But yeah, there's like an openness to other people's like identities and the way other people conduct their lives, as well as an openness to sharing stuff.
I feel like I can only speak for myself in this, but part of the reason I'm more open about stuff is mostly because of the internet and not having to speak to somebody directly where they can see me. It gives me, I guess, a bit of self-confidence to be more open. I don't know.
Interesting.
That's exactly, I was going to ask that if at school, if that openness happens when you're interacting with people face to face, or if it's there's a difference between those two environments and that you're more open in one environment than the other.
Yeah, I also feel like the whole school question is like, I it's really tough because I've only ever really been open on the internet because my old school, it was like so against being open about anything. So I've never really experienced being in a school where it's not kind of discouraged or prohibited,
Yeah.
Do you have, this is maybe going to sound like a funny question, but do you have friends on the internet that you only know through the internet and that you weren't friends with in person in real life?
Hannah has so many, and
Yes.
I've kind of melted into the friend group, Hannah's online friend group.
I have a lot of friends that I love quite dearly that I've never met in person, that I've only met through the internet.
Yeah.
And I love them very much.
A couple of them that we've unofficially adopted even.
You know who you are, besties.
So that for you, Hannah, like in real life versus the internet, do you find that same thing where it's the openness happens because of the internet, or does it bleed into real life or physical in-person life?
I think that's a good question. I think there is a lot of openness on the internet, for one. Like, I remember seeing a meme a while back about how having like best friends that from over the internet is wild, because you'll like help them through like a mental breakdown or through like something really, really serious, and then be like, wait, you have a dog? Or like, wait, you live in this state? Like, sometimes you get to know someone on like a really deep level if you do like become friends like that, and then superficial stuff starts filtering in.
It's like you start deep and go up from there instead of the other way around.
But careful, that's not everyone.
Sure.
Some people on the internet are just like people, but like some people do become like your friends, and it's great.
So how do you think that plays into your beliefs at all about God and stuff?
I think it has slightly, because for a couple years, one of my best friends was a witch, and by that I mean like they are still like a pagan witch, just not like one of my bestest friends right now anyway. But I remember before I was more open with my faith and beliefs, I was like, in my head, like privately, I was like, you're wrong, but I don't know what to do about that. I remember one of the last bad leaps in my faith that I had was like, I need to be telling my friends about God and Jesus, and it would be very cool if they became Christian. And like, I threw something away recently that reminded me of that. There was like a retreat or something like that where you like wrote on like a little plastic like switch on and off candle, and you like wrote on it, and I like saw that now, and I like threw it away. I was like, gross. I remember that friend and a couple of other friends saying that it feels really scummy for Christians to become friends with someone just so they can like convert them to their own faith. And like that made me think. I was like, ooh, ooh, dang, you right.
Yeah, and I was taught that as quote unquote friendship evangelism.
Gross.
Yeah, that reminds me a little bit of in elementary school, where it was a lot more laid back than the high school at that old school.
Yeah.
And I had mostly friends. I think I had all friends that weren't Christian, and I didn't like befriend them just to convert them. But like for some reason, I felt obligated to try to make them Christian for some reason, because I had been taught that the only way you get to heaven is by being Christian. I was like, well, I want to see them in heaven. I want to see my friends. Sure. So now I'm going to try to convert them or whatever. And it was really weird, you know? And it's super weird thinking back on that, but I guess it was just kind of what I was taught at church. I don't know.
So how have things changed for you in the past couple of years? I mean, obviously your dad is kind of hosting a deconstruction-ish podcast.
Gone
right?
off the deep end.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still mad that you didn't name it the Godcast.
I wanted to.
That was taken. I thought we went over that.
It was taken. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you just refused. I think you just refused.
Also, we wanted to set expectations lower than that. You gotta, you gotta come out of the gate pretty good if you're called the Godcast.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We got us.
Yeah, it can't be your first podcast if you're gonna name it the Godcast.
You gotta work up to that.
I'm gonna lose it. In the past few years, around like 5-ish years ago or so, maybe even more than that, the idea of like the Bible was not written for us. It was written for other people with different contexts and different history, and maybe it wasn't supposed to be taken literally and stuff like that. That's when I started like thinking about that kind of stuff. And then more recently, I've like totally let go of like basically, well, not total, like I feel like I've let go of basically everything except be kind to me loving.
Yeah, it's I don't know why, but I feel like subconsciously, ever since the deconstruction stuff, I have like kind of stopped really caring about things like whatever the Bible says, because when like I was kind of I feel like 14 is a relatively young age with all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
And before that I was pretty young, and it was learning like all the Bible stories. I thought it was cool, but I never viewed them as like, oh, this exactly happened or whatever.
Ooh.
Or this is like, this is fact and it should be taught as fact and it's super important. Like the Adam and Eve stuff, that was always like, maybe not. I don't know. But now I definitely know that's like, oh no, definitely not. And it's interesting because I haven't changed that much compared to where I was before the whole deconstruction thing.
Has, like those of us who are like in an office or someone had a huge disruption the last couple of years, and people who are going to school like you also had a huge disruption to like what was normal life. have you found that, like, because of COVID, and now that we're going back to kind of a more in-person reality again, in-person school or non-masked school, are there things that have changed in those last 2 years? Are you online more of the time, or do you have more online friends versus friends at school now? Have you noticed,
Yes.
a changed perception when you go to school versus how you felt before?
I certainly have I've been spending more time with my online friends since COVID hit. And my initial thought was like, oh, I don't think like COVID's changed my perspective on things. But then I realized I think it's helped me to know when to like dig my heels in for something that I like particularly believe in, i.e., if it keeps people safe with masks, for example, or if it's something that I really believe, like for masks or like my own beliefs, religious or otherwise.
Okay.
I mean, a lot has changed about me since the beginning and my views and stuff. Because at the beginning, I was in 6th grade, and now I'm almost in 9th grade. And I feel like that's probably the biggest amount of change, like, anybody.
There's a lot of change going on
That is a
anyway.
lot of change.
The most concentrated change, and it happened to happen during the quarantine, which on top of all of the stuff also changed stuff. I feel like the whole Christianity stuff didn't, it only really changed when like the deconstruction stuff and leaving the old church happened, and my views on like other matters, but being more accepting towards certain groups of people is I never really specifically thought it was like crazy, but now I feel like I'm more specifically accepting toward them.
Why do you think you're more accepting? Because I think both of you are now than you used to be. What has led you to be more accepting of people?
Realizing that it's not worth the anxiety or the effort to go through not being accepting. And like that's not the only reason, of course. But like realizing that not being accepting I was about to say is wrong, but I feel that may be taken very strongly.
I mean, you're not wrong when you say it's wrong.
It's something similar, if not.
It's harmful, maybe?
There we go. Yeah, it is incredibly harmful.
I don't have any friends on the internet. I've never had a friend on the internet.
You got a friend in me, man.
You're IRL.
Well, the way that you meet people online usually is like through a shared interest or like a game that you play together or like a forum. Like most of, like for example, most of all of my friends that I have on the internet right now, I realize actually I met through my special interest, which is like this Minecraft D&D-esque roleplay medieval fantasy server, where our characters got like close as like people, like friends, and then that starts requiring closeness between like us as players. Like, oh, do you want to role play like later, or like, oh, I think this is like a cool direction for their relationship to go in, or like, what do you think about like my character doing this and whatever. And that just leads to becoming friends with the people.
Interesting. I've wondered if the openness that happens on the internet or with internet friends, part of that is anonymity. Like people don't see who you are. You kind of get to be whoever you want to be in some ways. But I wonder if part of it too is that the way that you find people means that you are already very similar in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? So so it's not like you're just open with anyone on the internet if you could just get on page 1 of the internet, right? It's that you've already self-selected out to be in this group that is going to...
Of people with like a shared interest, at the very least. Because there are still plenty of people I don't get along with on that server. My parents know. I've grieved about some choice individuals. But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, like, yeah, it's a very interesting way of like putting it. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's interesting having a parent or authority figure or multiple authority figures go through a deconstruction is probably an interesting, we'll see how that comes out in therapy in later years and what that does. What questions are you allowed to ask that maybe we weren't, or what do you notice that you maybe didn't notice before? I think something I've been curious about is what will happen with Generation Alpha and Beta. I have this strong reaction that things on the internet are bad. That
yeah,
that, like this.
Don't give out your personal information to people on the internet. They could be lying to you because it's anonymous and everything.
Yeah, the internet is going to ruin your life if you post the wrong thing. We were definitely taught that, but also just the generations above us were worried because we went from nothing to starting to interact with the internet like this and get sucked in. And so I have taken that and internalized that. And so like I'm raising a kid that like I want him to be on farms, touching dirt. I want him to be like
touching
playing
grass
in playgrounds and that, like far away from the internet. So that's a pendulum swing reaction away from this scary thing, the internet, that I'm, nervous is sucking my soul away. So there's a couple of questions there. One is do you think that those next generations are going to be even more native internet people than you? And also, what is your relationship with the phone, with an app, with the internet like?
I think that they're absolutely going to be more dependent on, maybe dependent, but definitely more internet native than Gen Z. Gen Z is already pretty internet native, but like Alpha is like growing up with like iPads in their hands. Like, didn't the first iPhone come out the year Noah was born?
Yeah, it did. I am as old as iPhones.
I had a Palm Pilot. I had a Palm Pilot, and I barely got anything out of that. Yeah, I do think Generation Alpha is going to have more internet nativity than us, which is hard to imagine. But that's
Yeah,
okay.
I feel like it might not be the worst thing as long as you don't give them Twitter, which I see a lot of parents not caring about and just giving their Generation Alpha children Twitter for some reason.
What's wrong with Twitter? It's just words.
Oh boy!
I'm gonna have to ask you.
You
to try
haven't
that
heard
again.
about a choice ex-president in that case.
No, you don't have to follow the bad people. You just follow the good people.
Right.
That's what Hannah does, but
That's what everyone
it's still
thinks.
Twitter. It's still Twitter.
So that makes me think of something. One thing I've noticed about your generation is that you get very, very passionate about things on the internet.
Where people are wrong.
Where, like, there's somebody wrong on the internet,
Yeah.
And
That means, yeah.
like, and honestly, you guys know this, but like, it causes kind of like some consternation with your old people parents. We're like, why are you freaking out about this? There's nothing you can do about it. And so we see, like, from my perspective, I see this passion, like you want to fix the world and repair it and make it better because you see all the problems, because you're on the internet all the time and all you see is the problems. So we need to fix it. How do you think that? How does that translate to
How do
like
you do
church
that?
stuff?
Like what stuff? I'm sorry. Oh,
Like,
church stuff?
How does it translate to church stuff?
It sure makes me want to make everything better. It gives me involuntary response of like, oh, this is what they should do. This is what they should do to make it better. Oh, maybe this could be changed, or maybe get new leaders or whatever. And I feel like it's really not good, mainly because I can't do anything about it, and I'm getting stressed over something. Like extra stressed over this because it's like I could be doing something, but I can't. But I literally can't be doing anything at all. So it's just like another layer.
So the deconstruction stuff is kind of stressing you out?
Well, not specifically the deconstruction stuff, but the old church.
Mm-hmm. It
like,
stressed you out?
Right before we actually like officially left, there was a lot of stuff that I could have just been like, why don't they just change this or this and it would be better, and we could just go back to normal lives. But at this point, I feel like it's just too late to try to change anything because they're not gonna change.
You are slightly more pessimistic than I am. I'm more
sorry.
optimistic. No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just noting. Sorry,
I know parents don't like me saying this, but
no,
I don't.
I'm asking.
I feel like last semester really made me a little bit more pessimistic. I'm growing out of it more slowly.
Yeah, your experiences with certain political
party
has certainly seemed to have made you more pessimistic about people changing and people caring.
Yeah, because nobody back then, I would try to get them to change, and it was worthless. It was hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
There.
And that's
so now
totally
I'm used
valid.
to things being hopeless.
And you seem more willing to accept that some things can be hopeless. Not everything can be changed. Meanwhile, I yell about everything.
I was going to ask you, you had mentioned that you've got to fix the world, your generation. Do maybe Noah and Hannah, do you feel like the pressure of, I have to do something about this, or this is something that is up to me? Or the other side of that is that you can just be like, well, this part of the world is messed up. I'm gonna close my eyes and ignore it.
It's certainly something that our generation, the people who are going to be in charge of things like that, are going to have to worry about. I feel like the reason I said that is because like global warming has become way more relevant recently and stuff like that. And our generation is going to have to be the ones picking up the debris left by all of these harmful environmental things. And I mean, like, I don't think that I'm ever going to be in a position to do anything important on that level of, not importance, but like on that level of like activism, question mark. But I mean, I want to help in the small ways that I can, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I feel a lot of pressure when it comes to like specifically the very inevitable event of a war caused by the old people, by the older generation, and we're going to be forced to pick it up because they're just going to be dead of old age by the time it's over or something like that. It's like, well,
what a foreign concept that we've never experienced ever.
Never once, not once in history, not specifically, not like 200 years ago ish.
Life is pain.
Yeah, and so it kind of goes along with the endless, unstoppable optimism that you guys have. Well, except for Noah.
Sorry.
Who's been beaten down by life already at 14.
I'm a grizzled old man.
But and your mom often says that you're going to be the generation that saves the world, that saves us all.
But what if I don't want to be the generation that saves us all? What if I don't trust myself?
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
We're gonna have to. I don't trust myself either, bestie.
I'm going to be in my 60s picking up trash off the beach. you know?
Yeah, and I'm really curious. What do you think? What do you guys think? So we're in a state, in a position right now where, or in a time in history where the access to information has, I think, been a huge part of the path toward deconstruction for many people my age and younger. Because I would say in the deconstruction world that I've been a part of or come across, it's mostly Gen Xers and younger. I don't see a lot of older folks doing this. Not a lot. But that access to information is making things, it's just changing things. And so it's changing, people are like learning new stuff and they're doubting things in different ways. And churches are changing now. Some churches are dying off. A few here in town have closed down after COVID and everything. What do you think a church is going to look like in the future once the Gen Z kids, who are generally more open,
take over
and accepting,
as is our right?
Yeah. Do you think it'll look different, or I mean, get us your crystal ball real quick.
I gotta get out the fushigi real quick.
Fushigi ball. I don't know. That's because I feel like a lot of younger people are gravitating away from like traditional churches and churches at all. Not that I think that's a bad thing, because churches were originally just fellowship and vibes and hanging out and talking about
mostly
how to do
vibes.
things good. Mostly vibes.
No camp. No bet.
No.
Bets are off.
No cap.
No cap. But we also don't say that. That was like
Please.
a year ago. Let me correct
It was
some
so
stuff.
last month, Nathan.
We are going to correct stuff at the end of the podcast. Ask us the slang. Don't
Oh
worry.
yeah, that's gonna be an end segment. But like I think that I think church in the original definition of the word is going to still happen.
Okay.
But not as it is currently. Which is like in buildings every Sunday with do this and this and this. But more like
some church Discord servers.
hanging stop. But more like hanging out and talking about like, hey, how are you doing? You doing okay? You need help with stuff?
Like more relationship based?
Yes.
As opposed to worship based?
As opposed to structured worship based.
I feel so old, you guys. I don't like this. Is that these friends, these internet friends you're talking about on the online? Do those kinds of conversations happen naturally? Like, how are you doing? What are the things in your life that you are struggling with? Or are the conversations surface level, like my conversations always have been in real life?
It's a mixture, I think. Like with people online, if you don't always like talk to them out loud, if you don't ever talk to them like out loud, you start to learn their typing patterns and how to tell if something is wrong based on how they type, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah,
I've
had enough internet friends to get used to that sort of thing.
Well, you gotta like spend a lot of time with an internet friend, and then eventually you notice with them. It's like a person by person thing, I feel like. And then that's usually the point in which like, hey, are you okay? Can I help you with anything? Is there anything you need me to do? Is there anything I can do? There's also like if you talk to them like on such a call as we are on now, like listeners can't see this, but we're on it's like a Zoom call. We can see each other. Hi. If like such calls happen, then it's way easier to tell if someone's doing all right. And like how they're feeling, because tone and like voice is so much easier to hear differences through, and like intent and meaning and stuff.
It does get interesting on like our main friend group Discord server though, the home and it like there's a whole area in it. Hold on, let me pull it up. if I go to the
Is
server,
it the politics section?
there's the whole the basement
Oh yeah, the
that
basement.
has a politics channel, a thoughts channel. I don't it's I don't get it. That one.
Thoughts as in
And
like
then
just rant about whatever you're thinking about.
an interesting one is the vent channel, which is where I hear about a lot of like some of the personal problems of some of the friends that I haven't heard about before. And that's how I find it. Like, that's how it's not just like surface level anymore. You just go into there and it's like, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah. You go into there, like, okay, so some servers will, and by servers I mean on Discord, because we use a lot of Discord, Noah and I. On Discord servers, there may or may not be a vent channel where you can just vent and people can kind of console you. And that is absolutely, like, if there is a vent channel, there is absolutely going to be deep conversations, and you're going to learn a lot about the intimate and personal lives of the people you are in chats with. Because they're going to talk about like abuse or frustrations with politics or their like deep set opinions on things and stuff like that.
So you're saying that it's possible to have actual relationships with internet friends?
I'm going to hit you.
I was going to ask if it's covered by insurance or if it's out of network, because
I'm going to cry.
I find it. And the reason I'm connecting this to the future of the church and maybe a strength of your generation that I'm seeing, but I'm still curious about this because I don't have friends on the internet, but in real life I find it extremely difficult to get those kinds of conversations to happen. Right? There's not a corner of the church building where you just get to scream whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain churches like that. I've been to those churches, but it's difficult to do that in real life for my generation, I feel.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's difficult to do in real life.
I wonder if that's going to be a thing that just being used to sharing that kind of thing one day will bleed into real life, but also just that important thing where you're sharing difficulties with people. You see other people's difficulties. If that'll balance the thing that we're all afraid of, which is that you guys are seeing this glamorized, fake, unattainable, Instagram life out there. That's
which certainly exists and certainly still happens.
So I wonder if you see both, though. If you see the like, hey, other people are messed up, or other people have problems, or other people get frustrated or aren't perfect, more than kind of we were able to.
We certainly see a lot of that, specifically in parasocial relationships. When Noah sighs. Like
parasocial.
I hate to explain this term again.
It gets really fun.
Parasocial relationships are like let me just Google the definition really quick.
Like ghost relationships? Like paranormal?
No. Parasocial relationships.
Oh, paratypical?
I got it pulled up.
Parasocial relationships are one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time, and the other party, the persona, is completely unaware of the other's existence. For example, with like internet celebrities and influencers and YouTubers.
Like
specifically,
we feel like we know them really well, but they don't even have a clue we exist.
Okay.
Yes. It's where like fans start being really weird with like content creators and influencers and celebrities.
Namely like the one you might have heard around the internet, if you've ever heard of the YouTuber Dream.
No.
If you haven't heard of them,
you can guarantee that nobody our age has heard of Dream.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not going to
Don't worry about
it. The zero Gen Z viewers out there will understand what we're talking about.
Well, I realized I have this thing you're talking about. So when there's someone who posts regularly, for me, it's like friends of friends on Instagram or grown-up TikTok, also known as Reels on Instagram, where where there are these people who are sharing their lives. Yeah. And it's kind of the kind of content that you would expect pre-internet to have only been intimate friends, right? Here's a thing I'm sad about. Here's a thing I'm frustrated about. Here's a weakness I have. Here's an imperfection I have. And so I become invested in that, and it's, if I saw them in the airport, I would feel like I know who they are, I know their personality, I know how, what makes them laugh.
Yeah.
And
And
obviously they don't know who I am.
yeah, and even if you may know a lot about them, even if you may actually like genuinely know a lot about them, which is like rare in and of itself, but I digress. Um, they still it's like still classified as like parasocial. And so the thing about my generation is I feel that we're becoming more aware of the difference between genuine and parasocial relationships online.
Mm.
So when you start talking about your relationship with God or someone else's relationship with God, can
Sorry, go ahead.
you like can you tell the difference between someone who they're describing a parasocial relationship and someone who is describing a what's the opposite of a parasocial relationship? A genuine relationship.
Yeah, genuine. Sorry, I laughed because I thought you were gonna jokingly ask so does everyone have a parasocial relationship with
Well,
God?
no, I'm implying that
He kind of is
there's
asking
something
that.
That people can. I'm implying that people can.
I just asked it politely.
hmm um,
There definitely are people that, I mean, the way that God has been taught to me, I don't know, I assume it's similar to most people, but it's like God loves you specifically and knows about you. And it's like,
oh, that's a take.
I feel like it was never necessarily parasocial, but also I feel like some parasocial relationships are kind of convincing yourself that they know you specifically or are making this content
Mm.
specifically for you, like
Mhm.
the whole comfort streamer idea, where it's like, oh, this streamer totally doesn't do streaming at all for money or their job, even though it is, but they just do it to make me feel better specifically. It's like a weird type of parasocial relationship. I hate to call it weird, but I feel like it kind of is not the norm.
That's really interesting, Noah. Well, I think it's not. I think to Nathan's point, it's not that far off from the way a lot of people see God. It's that, like, I may know all kinds of things about God, and like I think in our very first episode of our podcast, Nathan joked about Facebook stalking God, but it's like this one-way relationship often.
It feels
And
like a one-way relationship.
yeah,
One-way
yeah.
relationship.
Yeah,
Often.
like you hear, at least I
Even
hear
if it
a bunch
maybe
of,
not.
I hear a bunch of like YouTubers that aren't Christian. It's like, oh, I making fun of like crappy Christians specifically, where it's like, oh yeah, I love it when God puts gives people like cancer and diseases and wars, and yeah, that did always confuse me and made my faith in God a little bit wonky, because it's like, why would God let wars happen if he's so powerful? And that reminds me of a different podcast. If you've ever heard of Good Mythical Morning, Rhett and Link,
Yep,
they have their podcast, and they did a whole like week of their deconstruction from their faith, and they would describe themselves as no longer Christian. And I heard one of them saying, is like, why would I choose to believe in a God that would, let murders happen, or let like disease, or let any of this bad stuff happen,
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting. I don't know.
Those are some honestly very heavy questions that people have been trying to figure out for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So I get it.
What do you think people get out of, I guess both sides of those parasocial relationships? If you're the streamer with 1,000 viewers, that's a low number, 100,000 viewers, what are those people getting out of it, and what are the viewers getting out of that kind of relationship that's drawing so many people towards that? And is your generation waking up to that phenomenon, or more kind of drawn into the middle of that?
I think that, there are certainly some people who are becoming like aware of the fact that people are forming parasocial relationships with them. I watched a few people on YouTube who were like, not to get parasocial on you, like as like a joke, but like you know that they know.
Mm.
um or like outright stating like, no, I will not say that. That's too parasocial because I don't know you and I can't like mean that. But like I think the people who consume streamers and YouTubers and celebrities, it depends. Usually like a lot of times for entertainment, sometimes it's for comfort, sometimes it's for like security, like, oh, this one person like keeps doing all this cool stuff even though my life is so tumultuous. They can provide a bit of comfort in their relatability because like they may like share a trait that you have. Like for example, I remember finding out that some YouTubers that I watch totally have like really like they ADHD. Like they have ADHD. They've stated it explicitly. And I remember seeing that and like just hope soaring in my chest because if other people with ADHD can be so successful, like, hey, I can do that. But there's also the like the humor aspect and like you just come to like them. You're like, hey, I like this person. I think they're
Mm.
neat. And on the streamer, content creator, celebrity influencer side of it, I think it specifically on YouTube, I think it starts as a passion thing and then it grows and it's still a passion thing, but money becomes part of it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. They're doing it because they love to do it and because they're getting money from it because it has become the way that they make their living. And like they still may like I know one specific YouTuber talks all the time about how he's like so happy that he can make other people happy and can make other people laugh. Like that's worth the world to him. Jacksepticeye.
Oh yeah, I mean that sounds like a Jacksepticeye thing.
King.
You boomers wouldn't understand what we're talking about.
So I want to. Can I ask you guys some questions about your feelings of deconstruction stuff?
I like it. I think it's cool.
So I want to know. So we have a lot of listeners who are old, like me and Nathan, and they have kids, and they may be going through like this rethinking faith thing as well. And we've had a lot of people question, like, what's this going to do to my kids? Is it going to screw them up? Is it going to make them
Good golly
atheists?
gosh, that's a good question.
Yeah. So, no. Why don't you start? How have you changed, or what have your feelings been? Like, if I said to you, what's life been like since your parents started like rethinking everything they believed?
I would probably say that life got better. Not like it was a drastic change, but it was nice to see that my parents were changing from like slowly going from we might accept this or from don't accept this at all, and then slowly like we might accept this to eventually accepting it but kind of reluctantly, and then eventually just being fully accepting. And it's like super cool to see that. And then also just like the fact that it encourages me. I don't know what's the word. It gives me hope, I guess, that there are actually Christians that live by what, the Bible is well known for, which is like being a good person and just being not terror. It was like, be good to your neighbor, be good to your family, like honor people, It's like love one another is like a huge thing in the Bible. And it's nice to actually see Christians like properly doing that without being hateful on the side, where it's like they love people, but they only love this group of people. They don't really love this other group of people that much because something or other, the Bible, I guess. and
Yeah.
I feel like the deconstruction is a 100% positive in my opinion. I don't know. There's not really been anything bad, because like leaving the old church at first felt like a bad thing, but I realized it was probably just good to get out of that toxic situation. It's better to leave than
Abusive relationship, baby.
it's better to leave than to stay. And like the abusive relationship thing is like, it's just like the normal thing that they always go through, so why would they want to change it? It's like more effort to change, but I think it's worth changing stuff, like going to a different church that's more accepting, or maybe just having different beliefs at least.
What about you, Hannah?
Can you please restate the question?
Yeah, feelings and thoughts about you as a child of two parents going through deconstruction and going to new church and upending
Yes.
beliefs. And I know you're 5 years older than Noah, so I know you've had a bit of a different experience.
I grew up with our old church and with the beliefs that my family collectively used to hold. And so I feel that I see more of a drastic shift. Like I see it more explicitly, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty cool. But at the same time, because of that, I remember the old church way better, and spent a lot more time in it. And I can tell you, not that you need informing, Father, dearest, but I can certainly say that leaving the old church was really hard, and it still is, because it's just so much emotion is tied up in that, regardless of whether or not we agree with them anymore and agree with what they're teaching and how they're conducting things. And it's like the pain you feel after working out. It's like good in the long run, but it hurts.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't exactly relate to, and it's kind of weird. I don't know why.
You're valid.
Grow up from like a younger age, kind of, sort of, in the old church, but I never had that close of a connection to it. Really,
It's just another
weird.
place where you grew up.
It's just another place I went to on Sundays. In my mind, it's just like, I never had that strong of a faith, I guess you could say, because I was so young. It was like I was still figuring out how to be a human being, so it was weird to also figure out how to be like such a different person from the majority of the people I knew at school were like not most of them were not Christians. Like a lot of people at school were, but I happened to befriend the ones that weren't, and it was I don't know.
An interesting experience.
It was an interesting experience, and I never ended up being that upset about leaving, or like it's weird.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, because just from your age differences, when like we quit going to physical church during COVID, March 15th, 2020, roughly. And that was, that was like 2 years basically or a year and a half before we actually departed from that church, quote unquote. And so you were 12, 11 years old at the time. So you didn't have as many close relationships with people, and you didn't, like you said, you were still trying to figure out what this whole God thing meant, and it was still a lot of stories. So it makes a lot of sense why you have a different experience. So what do you think about how things where we are now, church-wise?
I would say that the new church is really, it's honestly a breath of fresh air when compared to old church. It's just like, it's so nice having people that are similar to me in their beliefs and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's
That's fine.
a process.
Because I can relate to like the kids better at the new church than I could at the old church. You know.
Yeah.
I was always like pushed to be like, hey, you should hang out with this kid because he's your age or whatever. And I don't know why I never really did that. And that made it so I feel like that was another reason that it was kind of easier to let go of the old church, I guess. It's because I never really had that many close ties to people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a little
Yeah.
strange.
No, I
Do
understand.
not know exactly what God wants of me. He's only told me how to act towards you. And I'm too far separated from the men who wrote the law to stand before you pointing out your flaws. Sunlight warms my face and the air fills my lungs. Summer sun brings growth and the winter...
It's interesting. It's, you know, I know a core sample is we're really just asking two people, not a
Right.
generation. And still is interesting, though. I think there's always going to be strengths that each generation is bringing.
Mm-hmm.
Every older generation is always going to worry that the next one is backsliding or is, doing something wrong. But
I solidly believe Gen Z's is acceptance and change. Sorry, go on. I just want to say that.
that's their backslide.
No, that's the thing that they're
That's
good
their
at.
strength.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
It sounds like the same thing. Sounds like your acceptance is our backsliding, but yeah. So acceptance and change. Millennials are still figuring out what our strength is.
Avocado toast.
Yeah, it's good coffee. So you're welcome.
Transitional. You're transitional. You're starting to prove to the older generation that, hey, there's a problem here. Hi, guys. Hi, we can change.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's interesting though how each generation is going to adapt to the environment and how they live out their faith or ask different questions or grow in different ways, right? Than the previous one did. So, so interesting to hear that kind of stuff and see that unfolding. So I do think that openness, mental health wise, talking about beliefs, talking about challenges, that's a huge strength as well.
Yeah, I agree on the strength because I said before on this podcast that you guys have both taught me a lot. And most of that comes to teaching an old Generation Xer like me to try to default to acceptance, like I was saying earlier. Default to acceptance and love and start from there. And I think it's a great place to start. And I wish more people would start where you guys are. So as we close out here, do you guys have any sage advice, spiritual or otherwise, for the old folks out there? Hannah, why don't you go first?
I think you said it. Perfectly. Learn to default to acceptance. I say this next bit with all the love in my heart for you parents, but every so often, like one of you will make a comment about someone's appearance or something like that, or like, oh, they're like this, and I'm like, what? Why would you say that? Shut up. Yeah, default to acceptance and love, and be merciful in your assumptions about people and what they may or may not have gone through.
That is the opposite of my personality. How do you change your default? The default is just the loading screen.
Every time you notice that loading screen, go, you backpedal, you're like, okay,
Reboot.
try this again. Yeah. Try rebooting the system.
Okay.
Keep rebooting it whenever you notice it. Try your best.
What about you, Noah? You have any advice?
What would you change? What are the things you see the church doing or us doing that you realize you think we need to do differently?
I would say I mean, what Hannah said is basically what I would say, but wow, what would I add on to that? I guess one thing I like saying to people a lot, which never usually worked, is just don't be a bad person. Just try to think through. It's like, would this make the other person feel like they're unaccepted or whatever, or like would they feel hurt because like you're criticizing or mentioning? Analyze what you're about to say before you say it. This is like, analyze, oh, is this thing homophobic maybe on accident because that's how I was raised? Maybe don't say it because Dad says it sometimes as a joke. But I tell him to stop, and he doesn't stop.
Now we're getting the dirt.
That's
That's what I was hoping would
you
come
joke
out.
with your kids to make a point, and then they tattle on you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's because
why.
you said
We're
it's
in the podcast.
It's
We're
such
still
a
recording.
We used to come here. I'm sorry.
Hello.
Mom walks in. Hi.
we were to dirt. We were to dirt on Steve sharing time.
we're making
That
fun
was
of
just
Dad.
Open floor.
Yes. There's plenty of dirt.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mom, you should add some dirt.
Floor is yours.
I can share dirt now.
Yes,
I'd prefer you not share dirt.
please, come on.
I don't have any dirt.
Dang it!
Good answer.
Mom,
You're so
promised-
boring.
You promised us, and then you let
He's
us
a keeper.
down.
Okay, let me think.
No, it's enough time. We're
Yeah,
good.
that's enough.
Close out.
Looks like we're out
we
of time for
forgot
the
about
See you
show.
guys
Gen Z.
next time.
Wait, we forgot about the Gen Z slang segment.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
No,
We
I think
got it.
I've got it down. I've got it.
please
I will
don't.
commit.
Do
I
not
will
Cap
assume
yo
that.
diggity.
I am elite. Is that one?
I will.
Okay. Tell us the top 3 newest Gen Z slang things that we need to know about to make our day better.
Okay, I know that you know about this one already, Mom and Dad, but drip?
Explain drip.
That's like like when you slowly share a secret with someone.
No, that is
No, that's drip
when
feed.
you have real good clothes.
So you are
If
drip?
you have, I know it's
No,
weird.
you
it's
have
really
the
weird.
drip.
I have no clue where it came from.
I think
Like,
it came
if
from
you- if
Hannah,
you-
it came from like a Rolex, which is like ice or whatever, and it melts and it drips.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes
Oh,
sense.
so
if
That's
you
not the case.
have
That
the
makes
drip,
sense.
that's good.
Yeah,
for you.
if you have drip.
Oh, have
So if you're
drip.
soggy.
No, don't say
You
soggy.
could say if you have drip or if you have the drip, either.
Dude, you're
No.
so
Soggy.
soggy.
You don't ever say totes. Don't ever say totes.
Stop.
First off, that's a rule that will get you
That's
jailed.
a while ago.
In many communities.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
When the Gen Z are ruling,
Totes
So
cringe.
one, drip means if you have
okay.
drip,
Drip.
you look good.
I have a second one. Oh, sorry.
Noah, what's yours? Do you have another one?
I have a very versatile one that you've probably heard way, way too much. It's used in so many situations, and I'm going to explain the most broad situations
what's the word,
because there are
John?
multiple. The word is bruh.
I'm gonna
Spelled
lose it.
B-R-U-H.
No.
They know
That's
this.
not your
He
thing. That's
knows
our
this.
thing, bruh.
Yeah, but to the old people
Bruh.
listeners out there that are older than,
Nathan.
No.
me,
Older than
I'm
20.
gonna lose it.
it
Over 30,
basically
we'll be
can
getting-
mean anything you want. It's
is a
whatever,
versatile
you
thing.
know. It's if you want it to. Well, okay. Usually, the most common use cases are like
Incredulity.
"bruh," as in like, "bro, that's
Yeah,
super
incredulity.
stupid," you know.
Like, bruh.
Like, come on.
come on.
Like, come on, or like, "bro, that's like super cool,"
Bruh.
you know. It's like if you took a sentence that started with "bro" and then a "bro" eventually turned
What?
into "bruh," because like,
Are you
person-
mansplaining bruh?
and then
to
"bro,"
us?
and then "bruh."
I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dad's taking a second. Mom's left. She's like, bye.
Hold on, bruh. A male
Well,
friend.
I think the bruh the fact that it can mean anything you want it to mean is just speaks highly to your the stance of acceptance and love of everyone.
Are you saying that because you mean it, or are you saying that to wrap it back up to the topic?
Both. I'm
Okay.
versatile myself. Well, thank you for being on my podcast, kids.
Thank you for inviting us. I love you.
Yeah, it's been enlightening in several ways.
And I love you, Nathan. He waves.
This was fun. No cap, extra drip.
Okay.
With almond milk.
See you guys. I'm gonna leave the studio.
Stop using cap.
Hi.
That's how my generation ordered coffee.
How do you order coffee? You say no cap?
I said no drip, extra
I
cap.
hope not.
You know,
Bruh. I'm gonna pass away. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning, except I'm not gonna wake up because I'm gonna have passed away in my sleep due to
All right, well, I'll miss you.
Hopefully.
just too much pain.
I'm gonna hang up now.
I passed away due to shock. Goodbye, Dad.
Okay, bye.
We're gonna continue the podcast on our own.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate you.
It was pretty fun being on.
good to talk to you guys.
See you later, guys. Hey, thanks for listening. We hope you got something out of the episode today. Check the show notes in your podcast app for all the links and references that were made, or you can find it all at followingthefire.com. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/followingthefire to become a patron. And of course, we'd love it if you rate the podcast and share it with others. See you later.
And I'll give you all my heart. Don't you know it's all I have? Even on my heart can't compare with what you're worth. I have been running almost all my life, but you always chase me down.